In this video, I answer a question from Venugopal. The question was asked in our Facebook group called Interest Property Tax Experts. So if you're not part of the group on Facebook and you are on Facebook, join the group because that's where we share lots of stuff on tax and on property. And the question is, what are the pros and cons of having a property opted to tax? So basically, what's the benefits and the disadvantages of having a property registered for VAT? Watch the video to find out. Interesting question, but the answer to it is fairly bland really, because there are no pros and cons per se. So let's say you're buying a property, commercial property, for £500,000 and you're having to pay VAT on it. Generally speaking, the reason why you're paying VAT is either it's a new property or somebody in the past, let's say 15 years ago, wanted to refurbish their commercial property, and the refurbishment was going to cost them, let's say, £100,000. And on that they had to pay 20% VAT, so £120,000 in total. They wanted to claim back the VAT, and their accountant said, in order to do that, you need to opt to tax. So basically register the property for VAT purposes. You get to claim back the VAT, so it gets you back £20,000. But HMRC say there's two things you need to do in return. The first one is charge VAT on the rent going forward, and that works okay if your tenant, for example, is VAT registered. If they aren't VAT registered, or if they're VAT exempt, so let's say they are in a business that doesn't charge VAT, like let's say a children's day nursery, then they're having to fund the VAT from their pocket. Now it's costing them 20% extra. That might put them off. So it depends whether your tenant is VAT registered or not, in terms of how open they will be to paying VAT. But they haven't got a choice, by the way. So either if they don't pay VAT, then whatever rent you charge them has to be VAT inclusive anyway. So either it costs you 20% or it costs them 20%. Now, if you're the tenant yourself and your business is VAT registered, you're okay because you just pay VAT to your commercial property, and then that pays you on to HMRC, and then your company, which is the tenant, can then reclaim the VAT. And the second thing HMRC say to you is, when you sell the property, you have to charge VAT on the disposal. And then the person who's buying from you, they can either register for VAT and claim it back, and then the loop goes on, the cycle goes on. Or they don't claim back the VAT and you charge them, pay that VAT to HMRC, and then the option to tax finishes. Usually people end up paying the VAT, reclaiming it, opting to tax, so then they register for VAT, and the cycle carries on and continues. As a buyer, the problem for you is, when you're buying it, you've got to fund the 20% VAT, so you've got to find that from somewhere. Usually your funder will fund that for you for a period of anywhere between 3 to 6 months. On top of that, then you have to pay stamp duty, land tax on the VAT element too, so that's going to be costly. You then have to register for VAT, file VAT returns, so it can be reasonably arduous. Especially if you only got one property. If you got quite a few in the same company and they all have an option to tax, that makes it a little bit easier, but otherwise it is an administrative job which you probably won't enjoy doing. So there's no real benefit of being VAT registered, apart from the fact that when you're doing work on the property as the owner, then you can claim back the VAT. But if you've got a long-term lease that you've assigned to somebody, and it is a full repairing and insuring lease, most of the time the work's going to be done by the lessee, i.e. the person who you've assigned or given the lease to. Therefore they'll do the work, so the VAT kind of becomes their problem. But if there's some major work being carried out which is outside the lease, then obviously you would do that. Or if the lease expires and then you're looking for a new tenant and you need to do substantial work to the property at that time, that's where you're usually likely to have a big cost, and therefore you may want to register for VAT to claim back the VAT. Although depending on the strength of the previous lease, if there are dilapidations, then obviously you'll get the tenant to pay for it because that'll be part of the lease. But we don't want to go into leases and all that complications of how leases work. It's a legal area, so solicitors are more qualified than I am about that, but I've seen lots of leases, I've entered into lots of leases, so I can generally share some of the things that I see, but that'll be for a different video. So to answer your question, Venu, there's no benefit per se apart from claiming back the VAT when somebody carries out major refurbishment work. But once you enter into an option to tax, then you're pretty much stuck with it for 20 years. So you charge VAT in the rent and you charge VAT when you sell it, and the cycle keeps going on. That's pretty much how it works.